Welcome to Tentative Title with Tim. This is a podcast about creativity, about process, about filmmaking, and about screenwriting. Welcome everybody back to the podcast. Wow, this is the 40th episode. I am just amazed that I've gotten this far, to be honest with you. I think I mentioned before that I tried this podcasting thing back in 2018, I think it was, and I just had no idea how I was going to go about doing this and if I even had enough to talk about. And lo and behold, I still have a bunch of things that I would love to talk about, and I haven't even scratched the surface on some of the stuff I already have talked about. So there's tons of things that I can come back to, and I'm just, 40 episodes. So I hope everybody's doing well. It's getting to be, further along in the year. And we're starting to see, vaccines being rolled out and all that kind of stuff. And it feels like the world is opening back up gradually, and that is a very good feeling. So the topic I wanted to talk about today was the idea of what makes a good film. And the answer is going to be different for everybody. And it's clear because I've had numerous conversations with people that I am convinced that a movie that I saw was the best movie ever. And I get, pushback, or the opposite, where somebody really loves a movie and they just want me to go see it. And sometimes I've been dragged along to the movie theater to see the movie. And sometimes it's been a good thing. I've agreed with the person about the movie being really good. But most of the time, the enthusiasm of the person urging me to go see something kind of diminishes the experience, because then I'm overly hyped about a movie, and when I see it, I'm like, well, what was the big deal in the first place? Which is why I usually end up just waiting to see something after the hype has died down, because I would really like to have a clear eye on what the hype was about, and if it really was a great film, then it should be great no matter when I see it. If I see it when it first comes out in the theater, or if I see it 5 years from then. Like, I always thought that the quote, I think it was from David Fincher, talked about the Best Picture nominees should be for films that came out 5 years ago. Because that is the true testing of what a great picture is that if you still remember a movie from 5 years ago, that is a great film. That is a film that is impactful. That is a film that has actually penetrated into your psyche, into your heart. It's something that you remember, that you think about. There might be scenes or characters that you just come back to, and that's what really makes a great film. But I wanted to talk about it because of the fact that I think we get kind of caught up in trying to make great stuff, which is great on the one hand, because you want your work to be the best that it can be. But it's also a very stifling place to be, because what is considered to be great now may not necessarily be great 5 years from now. And the trend could change, or the way in which society, could change. Like, case in point, right now, were going into a new administration, and there were a lot of types of content that was trying to comment on what was going on over the last 4 years, and to really to really just push back against the narrative, which we need movies to do that as well. But not every movie had to be an agenda driven story to combat a culture war. There was no reason for it, but somehow everybody was mobilized to create stories that pushed back against some hypothetical boogeyman. And it was a really odd time to create things because as much as you want to be responsible as a storyteller, which you should, there was this tendency to shy away from writing certain characters or writing certain plots or storylines because of the fact that there was this association that you were afraid was going to come at you. Like if you wrote a character that was truly evil, that for some reason that automatically meant that the people who read it, or if you got a chance to make it, that they would look at you if you were the writer or the director, heck, even the actor. Actors get pushed back all the time for playing characters. That somehow it had to do with who you are. That somehow you can't help but write or direct or act characters and stories that are just reflections of yourself. And I really thought about how that is really kind of dangerous. I mean, yeah, you're okay, so as actors, you're meant to act. And that you're expected to play something completely opposite from yourself. You're expected to be a chameleon and become something else. Now, obviously in film, there are some limitations to that. There are some cultural limits that just don't work. I mean, even if you try to do it, to do some things in film, it ends up just making everybody feel uncomfortable if you do it. Unless I'm a fan of the comedy that kind of goes to places where you don't expect it, and it's jarring, but if you have a character who is not self-aware and they're doing these things that are considered to be jarring, and they're doing these things that are considered to be just completely wrong in the eyes of society. I don't see why you couldn't have that kind of character if that character is not taken seriously, or if they somehow they don't actually win in the end. And it's we should be able to write those kinds of characters because they're a comment on how that kind of behavior is bad or is just it's just don't do it. It doesn't have to be a blatant kind of a commentary on what they're doing, but just the audience will see what they're doing, see what that character is doing, and say, yeah, that's a bad thing. I'm glad that they're not being successful in what they're trying to do as a character in this film. And so I just trying to write things, direct things, act in things that are good is a very subjective, it's a very subjective pursuit, because that line is always moving. It's always depending on who it is that is watching, what it is you've made, and it constantly changes. There are certain okay, so yeah, the last 5 years have been about finding things in old movies and waving our finger at it and saying that was wrong. We should completely take that out now because it's wrong now, and it was wrong to be in there in the first place. And I totally get that argument, but I don't agree with it at all either, because movies are a time capsule. They are a way in which we can look back and say, at this point in time, this was acceptable. And, we know that that's not good now, that's not acceptable now, but this is a part of history. This is a part of us human beings learning how to become better people and learning how to not be, so in a certain way, to be more open to cultures, to be, to kind of like branch out and have better stories and more inclusiveness in terms of like the kind of characters that are in these films. But so apart from that, it's like, what actually makes what you're making good? And it can be something as small as the actor on the screen. Like, there have been many, many times when, for some reason, I watch a movie or a show, and there's just one actor that I am just captivated by, and I'm like, wow, who are they? Like, what have they done? Like, what other stuff have they done? And I will go on a binge trying to find all of the different shows and movies that one actor has worked on. And it doesn't even matter if the movie is any good. It doesn't matter if the show is any good. I just enjoy watching that person act. And sometimes that's all it takes for something to be good, is just who's in it. Sometimes it's the director. Like, the same thing. If I find a movie from a director that I really, really enjoy, I start seeking out their other work, and I start to see how their style or like how they've grown over time. Like, I become fascinated by it, and it doesn't really become whether or not the movie itself is good or bad. It's appreciating the fact that they're putting in the effort, that they're trying to grow as an artist, that they're trying new things, or heck, even if they don't try new things, if they're just leaning into the kind of movies that they do, like, I can appreciate that too. So, but then that also changes. Like, once I've been through the catalog of an actor or a director, or even a writer, if there's someone like Aaron Sorkin or a Charlie Kaufman, like, I will seek out their movies because I know that they were the writers on them, and usually that comes with a director who I also follow, or an actor that I really like. But for the most part, it's just kind of following that trajectory of what they've created, and that in itself, seeing a full picture of like what they're trying to do is what kind of like brings this excitement about who these artists are, who, like, what they're doing and what they're going to do next. And that in itself can make a film good. It can really just not even be about the piece itself, about the film itself, but about everything around it. And that's really an interesting way to look at everything that comes out. Is that we in a way we kind of like try to treat something as like a standalone. There's no other influence around it. It came from nowhere, and that's not how this works. Like, everything is influenced by something else, and you can see how certain influences from one filmmaker to another, or from what they, I guess you could say, what they steal from another filmmaker and use in their own films. Like that is really exciting too, because you can see that there's a community, there's a love around the idea of cinema, the idea of trying to do something different, or paying homage to something that came before. And it's always going to be that way. It's going to be this cycle of using things that in the past to bring into the future, to remix it with other things, and it's always going to be that way, because the famous saying, "There's nothing new under the sun." There really isn't. It's just different incorporations of familiar elements, and maybe a little bit of a twist, but it's not, the parts aren't new. They're just put together in a different way. And so I really love thinking about the fact that sometimes everybody can say that they hate a film, and sometimes I get dragged into that too, where I hear there's so much hate for a certain film, and I kind of like make my mind up that I'm not going to see it because everybody else said that they hated it. But when I finally sit down and watch it for myself, sometimes I'm like, you guys are crazy. This is a great film. How could you not like think this is good? And, but that's what viewing art is all about. That's what this, a line of work that this industry is about, is just, one day you're going to watch a film and you're going to hate it. And the next day you watch it again and you're like, it actually, there's actually something here. And, it changes and grows, and it never stops being something interesting to think about and to engage with. Like, cinema is never going to go away. Like, if people can watch the same movie over and over and over again, it's like cinema is not going to die. Like, people love to watch stories. They love to watch characters. They love to watch actors that they love. To see the films from directors that they love, to writers, all of that. Like, it's never going to go away, because we have this insatiable need for stories and to want to constantly find answers to why we're on this planet. Like, I believe that that's part of the whole cinematic experience, is that, like, sometimes what makes a movie good is not necessarily what happens in the film itself, or the actor or the director or whatever, but it's more about like how you feel after the movie is done. Like, sometimes you can walk out of a movie theater, and even though the movie itself might have been like, okay, like something about it just like changes your perspective on the world. It becomes like this vehicle for empathy, as I think Roger Ebert, I think, said, he, like, it just, there's a way in which we can just look at other parts of the world through cinema, and that in itself is what makes it good. Just being able to have that perspective, and to not treat it as something that's recyclable, or as not recyclable, but disposable, entertainment. That there actually is something deeper there. There's actually something that's life affirming and can actually like feed our souls if we let it. If we step back and maybe not take some of it so seriously, or try to connect what's in it to the outside world, depending on the story, obviously. But, it's like, if we stop just trying to like tear it down, it can actually lift us up. And I want to have fun watching movies again. And being a student of cinema, actually there's that kind of was the way in which I started analyzing films, and that took a little bit of the fun out of it. But as time has gone on, I just want to sit down and feel that excitement about a movie again, to just not pick it apart because of some kind of agenda that may be a part of it, or that that it's trying to like preach to me about something. It's just like, just give me a story, just give me some characters, and through that I will get what your theme is, I will get what your agenda is, I will get like all of those things. And yeah, I don't want to say it's not that hard, but it's like when you approach it in that way, that's where you find those stories that are going to last forever. That's where you're going to find those stories that the audience is going to love. And even if it's a goofy comedy, like it's going to be a good movie, it's going to be a good story. And that's all we really want, right? It's just to make good stuff. Even if we don't have all the money in the world, even if we don't have like all the resources, like, you can still make a good story. You can still make a compelling story that people will remember. Like, it's possible, and we just got to keep doing it. So, guys, thank you for being here for 40 episodes. If you've been here from the beginning, like, you guys are like all stars. Thank you very much. Yeah, I know last week I didn't talk about like the whole mask and like sanitizer and social distancing and all that kind of stuff. And I think I was trying to just I think I was in the mode where I thought we're coming out of this thing, but we still have to stay vigilant. We still have to do all the safety precautions and all that kind of stuff, or else we're gonna find ourselves like backsliding into what we've had for the last year. So anyway, guys, be safe. Do all that safety, pandemic stuff, and I'll talk to you on the next one. And also, if you want to connect with me, I have an email for the podcast. It's tentative.title.with.tim.podcast@gmail.com. Also, I have a Twitter account for the podcast where I post episodes, and that is @title_Tim. And you can find also on the Facebook page, I have a page for the podcast, so you can connect with me there. Looking forward to hearing from all of you, and until then, I'll catch you on the next one.